Oh, I almost didn't see you there. How's it going? No, I'm just kidding. Of course I knew you were there. I had to freaking set up the camera and make it look all pretty and everything. Of course I knew you were there. Just trying to act natural. I really am trying to have fun with this. And I think the last time I tried to do YouTube, I overcomplicated it way too much when really I just want to share stories. That's really all I want to do. That's what I'm here to do, is share my story with you and talk about how I've achieved certain results in life. In today's video, I want to talk about this idea of retiring often. And a question that I ask myself pretty often is, was my engineering degree worth it? And let me just preface this video by saying, if you're one of those people that went to school for some very particular thing and you got a degree or an education in some specific career path, like, doctors or lawyers or an engineer, and if you genuinely love your job and what you do for work, then this video is not for you. This video is for someone who maybe they chose their career path when they were in their early 20s and they got a degree or a certification in something, and then they decided that that's not what they want to do for the rest of their life. But they're scared to make a change because they feel like they've invested so much time in getting that degree. That's the type of person that this video is for, because that's exactly where I was 7 or 8 years ago. I invested all this time in getting an engineering degree, a master's in engineering, which took me 7 years in total. And in the end, I only lasted in the corporate world for 3 years. So literally half the time, less than half the time it took me to get the actual degree is the amount of time that I worked in that profession. And I think I retired from my career much sooner than a lot of other people do. I think a lot of people feel like they might have sunk cost fallacy and feel that they invested all this time and money into a particular profession and that they need to stick with that profession for their entire life. And I want to make this video to just share my story of how I changed professions and why I think it's important to retire often instead of just waiting until the very end of your life to retire once, when you might not even be super healthy or your relationships might not be that great because you spent so much time working. I think that it's important to just take breaks throughout our life. And one of the ways to do that is retire often. Or another way I've heard it said is mini retirements, or even a sabbatical, whatever you want to call it. It's just important to take an extended break from work every now and then. 2 weeks is not enough to clear the decks and to work on your health and to explore your hobbies and to develop new relationships. So the old way of doing things was picking some sort of profession or career when you're in your 20s and then getting the credentials to do that thing and then doing that for the rest of your life. And I think that method feels a little bit outdated because the world is moving so fast now. And that model was created in a different age. And I spent 7 years acquiring that master's degree. And in the end, I only put it to use for 3 years. And I think a lot of people might stay stuck for much longer, even though they don't like the job and they know it's not right for them. I think a lot of people stay stuck in certain careers for much longer than they need to because they feel like they put in so much effort to get that certification or to get that degree or to get that credential. And I understand why. It's because of the scripts that we've built around work. I think that a lot of people think it's crazy to put in all this time and effort to learn something and then to all of a sudden just switch careers. Like, I know for a fact that one of the things that held me back personally was what my parents thought and what my friends and colleagues thought. If you're about to give up a safe, stable career and go off and do something without a plan, a lot of people are going to think that's crazy. But I think what's crazier is to have to choose something before you even really know yourself that well, and then doing that thing for the rest of your life. To me, that seems crazy because I don't think that we really know ourselves well enough at 18 or 19 or 20 years old to decide what we want to do as a professional for the rest of our lives. And sometimes I wonder what my life would look like if I ended up staying at that career, at that same engineering job that I had out of college. I wonder what my life would look like. And the only thing I could think of is that I would have more money in my bank account. But I know for sure that my day-to-day experience would not be as satisfying. Look at this. I'm sitting out on the beach right now on a beautiful Friday afternoon, shooting this video, sharing this with you guys, because I know for a fact if I stayed in that career, that my day-to-day life would not be as fulfilling and satisfying as it is today. And the only thing that I would have, again, is more money in my bank account, I think. I don't know. We have no way of knowing that for sure, but it's just a feeling I have. It's a feeling that I feel so compelled to share that I'm here shooting this video about it. Man, it is windy. Oh. Also, another thing is, I remember when I was getting ready to quit my engineering job and I told my parents that I was getting ready to leave, there was just so many questions around what I was going to do and what my plan was. And I think that's another thing holding a lot of people back, is that they think that they need to have some sort of specific plan when they quit their job or when they take a mini retirement. But I think one of the best things to do is to just follow your curiosities during that time and focus on other areas of your life outside of your work. I remember my mom especially, she was so concerned about me moving to Barcelona and again, just not having a plan. But in the end, after some time, it worked out and I was able to find work. Once I moved over here, I was able to find a remote job and I was able to settle in and make friends here. And I think that's one of the big things holding people back, is not just their own fears, but the fears that other people project onto them. Like, I was already somewhat nervous taking the step myself, but then when everyone else starts questioning your decision of, oh my God, why are you leaving this job? Or things are going so well, what would make you want to leave? It's just this feeling that you have inside of you that you know it's not right. And every single day that feeling gets stronger and stronger. At least, again, that's for me, that's how it happened. I knew that I didn't want to stay in that career, and every single day it just got harder and harder to stay. And then finally, when I made the decision that I was going to leave, I had people telling me that I was crazy for wanting to leave. So I understand why people stay stuck for so long. But for me, one of the big things that helped make the change was hearing other people's stories and listening to podcasts and watching YouTube videos and reading books. So again, that's why I'm here making this video for you, is because if you feel like you've been stuck in a career for too long, it's okay to take a break and take a step back. And I highly recommend it. And it's not only me that recommends it. There's this super well-known book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware. She was a nurse that she was a caregiver to older patients when they were nearing the end of their lives. And so she wrote this book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And one of the most common themes that kept popping up in the book was the men were saying that they wish they hadn't worked that hard. And this was a common theme amongst almost all the men. They said, I wish I hadn't worked that hard. And it's probably because their relationships suffered or their health suffered because they were so focused on work their entire lives. But the good news is we live in a different time now. We don't have to work the same job in the same industry for our entire lives anymore. There's a new way of looking at careers and the way of work. So the new way of work is that we're living through, I've heard it called the Great Reshuffle. So we're living through this time where there's a lot of different changes happening right now. A lot of power used to be centralized to institutions. If you wanted to be on TV, you had to be an actor or work for the news station or something. But now if you want to be on TV, you can just create a YouTube channel and people will literally be at home watching you on their TV. So the power is being decentralized. That's a big part of the Great Reshuffle, is that anyone, anywhere can now broadcast themselves to the entire world. And Another big thing that's changing is proof of work is replacing credentials. So in the past, it was really important if you wanted to get a great job, it was important for you to go to some private institution and get some fancy degree with some credentials. But nowadays, you don't have to do that anymore. You don't have to necessarily get credentials in order to prove yourself and your abilities. Another thing with the Great Reshuffle is that geography no longer matters. You're no longer competing with people in your local area. You're competing with a much more globalized economy. It's possible that your job could be not only taken by AI, but it could just be taken by somebody living in another country where the labor is much cheaper. And so these are all reasons it's important to always to continue to expand your skill set and just take a break every once in a while to see what else is happening out there in the world and focus on things outside of work. In previous generations, there was a lot less job mobility and people would change jobs a lot less. Like our grandparents, it was very normal for them to stay at one company for their entire career. And if you look at our parents' generation, or at least my parents' generation, it was more normal for them to maybe switch between different companies, but to stay still in the similar career their entire lives. Now, with my generation and the generations younger than me, it's going to be common to switch careers and switch industries many more times in your life than it was with previous generations. So this is something that's becoming much more normalized. I think in the past, people were hesitant to make a switch because they felt like they invested so much time into that company that they were working at and they had all these benefits and stuff like that. But we're moving to a world where more and more people are independently contracted and freelancing, and that's just the direction that work is moving towards. Yes, there still is stable, steady jobs, but as time goes on, it's becoming less and less. I think that having these periods where we go through different changes, where we maybe change careers or change to a new job or a new industry and we take a break in between, I think it's super important. It's part of nature. There are rest and rebirth periods. It's places where it's summer all year round are, I don't know, those places aren't exciting to me. I want to live in a place where there is a change of seasons and there's a summer where things are very active and there's a winter where things slow down. I think it's a much more healthy, sustainable lifestyle to have these rest and rebirth periods. And if you look at the big picture of things, taking a 3 to 6 month break is not that big of a deal. If you're looking at a long career of 40, 45, 50 years, a 3 to 6 month break is not that crazy. And I think employers these days also have enough emotional intelligence to know that you're not a robot and that taking some time off was actually healthy for you. And they'll know that you'll come back to work with a new perspective and more enthusiasm and energy than if you were coming directly from another job. And one of the last things I want to touch on is that the point of taking one of these mini retirements or a sabbatical from work and just reassessing if the career you're doing is the right one, the whole point of doing this is not just to take time off to sit on a couch and watch Netflix all day. It's a time to prioritize the other things that you probably deprioritize when you're working a full-time job in a specific career. You want to take time off to focus on the other areas of your life, like your health, your relationships, your hobbies. All that other stuff is very important in your life too. And I think that in our modern society, so much of our self-identity is tied into the work we do. But I don't know, one of the things I've noticed about living here in Europe is that I notice that people are less focused on what you do for work or for your career, and people are more focused on other interests, hobbies, and what you like to do for fun. And so this is also another reason I think it's important to consider retiring often, is so that you could focus on these other areas of your life. I'm going to end the video by reading you a speech from Brian Dyson, the former CEO of Coca-Cola. And he says that, imagine life as a game in which you are juggling 5 balls in the air. You name them work, family, health, friends, and spirit, and you're keeping all these in the air. You will soon understand that work is a rubber ball. If you drop it, it will bounce back. But the other 4 balls, family, health, friends, and spirit, are made of glass. If you drop one of these, they will be irreversibly scuffed, marked, nicked, damaged, or even shattered. They will never be the same. You must understand that and strive for balance in your life. So I wanted to end with that quote just because I think it's super important to realize this, is that we have all these other areas in our lives outside of work, but we tend to put such a high precedence on our work and our careers and what we do to make money, when that's not the only aspect of our lives that we need to be concerned about. So my last recommendation is that if you feel like you're stuck in a particular career or a job that doesn't feel right for you, but maybe you invested a lot of time into going to school or getting an education around that thing, my recommendation is just to start writing to yourself. Start journaling and start writing down your thoughts and your feelings and your goals and a plan for what you want your future to look like. Because having some sort of goal to move in a different direction without a plan in place, those goals are just dreams. They're not, you need to have a plan in place to move towards your goals. And I think that all starts with writing them down. So write down your plan, write down your goals, and eventually you're going to start to notice these patterns. And once you've noticed those patterns enough times, you're going to want to make a change. At least that's what happened with me. I started journaling to myself when I was in my engineering job. And I saw that I kept writing about Barcelona because I came here for vacation once. And this was a pattern that kept repeating in my journal for multiple years while I was working that engineering job. And it got to the point where one day I decided, okay, I'm going to quit my job and buy a one-way ticket to Barcelona. And that was 7 years ago. And now here we are, all because I took a mini retirement and decided to pivot from my engineering career. That's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Man, it was so freaking windy out here. But yeah, again, I hope that was helpful. And I hope you're enjoying these videos, having a really good time shooting them outside and taking like the pressure off me. I'm really just trying to tell stories here around what's worked for me, and hopefully it'll help you on your journey as well. So if you enjoyed this video, do all the things, like it, subscribe, comment, whatever you think, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.